What is going on, guys? I am Optimus Philip, and with Percy Jackson Season 2 officially over, I thought now would be a good time to take a look at the numbers and see just how well things are going for it. What we are looking at right now is the Rotten Tomatoes page for this season, where we can see that the tomato meter is showing 100%. Now, this is genuinely impressive, but it's also a little misleading. For those who are not familiar, the tomato meter is not an average review score. It is a like to dislike ratio. So 100% on Rotten Tomatoes just means that of the 36 reviews that they looked at, all of them gave the show a positive rating. It does not mean that it got perfect scores across the board. If we want to see an average review score, we need to look at a site like Metacritic. And we can see that the Metascore is 73%, which is about the same as what Season 1 got. And it's still positive, but also leaves room for improvement. Also, I'd like to point out that most of the critic reviews are based on just the first 2 episodes, so a lot of the more controversial elements, like the handling of Percy or the final plot twist, were not taken into consideration, which I think could skew things a bit. But ultimately, Disney isn't going to be looking at review scores when deciding the fate of the show. What they care about are viewership numbers. And according to Nielsen, Percy Jackson was the 5th most streamed original show in the US during the week of its premiere, getting 508 million minutes of watch time. Now, that may also seem promising, but there are still a couple things to consider. First of all, these aren't for new episodes, this is for the entire show. So half of this watch time was spent on Season 1. And if we look at how Season 1 did in its premiere week, 572 million minutes. So 70 million more minutes for just 2 episodes compared to 10 episodes. That's a bit of a drop right there. Again, especially taking into consideration that Season 2 only makes up half of this number. And that's just for week 1. If we follow the ratings through the rest of the season, we go from 508 million minutes down to 410 million minutes in its second week. Meanwhile, Season 1's second week saw it shoot up to 700 million views. And if we look ahead to week 3, we come back up just a little bit with 436 million minutes, but we're still well below 508, and we've also dropped down to 8th place. Meanwhile, back in Season 1, there's a slight drop from 700 million, but we're still clearing the 572. So, yeah, it's still a stark contrast. Hi, Editing Philip here. When I filmed this video, I stopped at week 3 because I wanted to keep things brief, and I realize now that that wasn't entirely fair, because when we get into week 4, viewership shoots up to 574 million, which beats out the Season 1 premiere. So yeah, I kinda did this show a disservice by stopping where I did, and I apologize for that. That being said, in the time it took for me to realize that and correct it, we got a report for week 5, and we have dropped all the way to 361 million minutes, and are now at the bottom of the Nielsen top 10. So, yeah, make of that what you will. And remember, this is still including Season 1. If we want to compare just with Season 2, we see an absolutely massive drop in viewership from Season 1. Now, this is from Luminate data, not Nielsen, so their measurements are going to be a little different, the numbers will be a little off, but I think this does still tell us a lot about how Season 2 is doing compared to Season 1, at least in this early window. Yeah, it's not looking very good. Now, of course, there are multiple factors that could be playing into this, chiefly the fact that Season 1 wasn't up against the Stranger Things finale. Yeah, that's some pretty stiff competition right there. Also, yes, Disney Plus has also been in a bit of a slump lately due to a variety of factors, and just the fact that we are in the Nielsen top 10 is still nothing to sneeze at. But at the same time, I feel like a drop this big says a lot about how much the show has alienated its target audience. I think a lot of people just gave up on the show after season 1 because it wasn't that faithful of an adaptation. Now, obviously, no adaptation is going to be exactly like the book. That's just impossible. They're completely different media. It's why it's called an adaptation. But you do have to be judicious about what you change and why you change it, otherwise, you risk alienating fans of the original, which is a problem if you're trying to capitalize on a fan base like this show is. And this show just was not judicious. It changed things for the sake of being different because they wanted to do something new. And that's just not how you make a faithful adaptation. So what does this all mean for the future of this show? Well, we know that Season 3 is happening. That was confirmed pretty much right alongside Season 2, and sure enough, we got a teaser in the season finale. So we know that's happening later this year. But as for Seasons 4 and 5, I think that's going to depend on how well Season 3 performs. I think that if Season 3 manages to win back the crowd and do similar numbers to Season 1, we could very well see this through to the end and get all the way to Season 5. But if this downward spiral continues, I think this could be the end of this show. And let me be clear, I genuinely want this show to succeed, because I'm worried that if it doesn't, studios might write off Percy Jackson as not being viable, which I don't think is true at all. I really think this series could work as a show or a movie if it's adapted correctly. So here's hoping that Season 3 can pull this off. The Titan's Curse is actually my favorite Percy Jackson book, so please, please don't screw this up!